I'm trapped in a maze, small business owner. Stress had me in the daze, every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling sad, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights with the support of our success group. We're taking flight, with our word strong, with vision so clear, building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force with our success group.
All right, little abrupt there, but welcome in. I tried a new shorter intro, Becky. I forgot to tell you that.
I see. Wasn't prepared for that one.
Yeah, I did that. That would have been good warning. Anyhow, welcome into Rising Tide Talks. We're a little discombobulated because we're down to 2 for today, but we're going to have a great show today. My name is Aaron Montgomery with our Success Group, and we're here to fall deeper in love with what we get to do each day. And the amazing host today is
me. No,
yeah, I don't know.
We're missing Kylene, so we'll see how we do here. But
Yeah, that's right.
I'm Becky Kutzer, and I believe it takes a village to run a business.
Absolutely. And so this you guys are our village, and I can't wait to hear some thoughts about what we're going to talk about today. Before we get in, Kylene is actually off teaching, getting ready to teach a new yoga class. That's not called a yoga class. That's
stretching.
Yep. Stretching class. And she's really excited about it, but she kind of got thrown a curveball at the last moment. She was supposed to kind of check it out today. And due to some situations going on there, they asked if she would actually teach today. So it's kind of her quote unquote interview. So let's all wish her lots of luck and send her thoughts and prayers that it goes well for her tonight. I'm sure she will do great.
Yes, she will.
Yep, indeed. So without Kylene here, though, that doesn't mean that we're going to skip gratitude. No, it is a superpower, and we are big believers in that. I actually got to talk to somebody just about 30 minutes ago or so. I was talking to Karen, one of our mastermind members, and she was telling me about reading the book and how impactful it was for her. And she, before she got it, she's like, how could anybody write that much about gratitude? But then she got into it. It's like, this is like practical. I can put it to use. So anyhow, Becky, I don't know. You wanted to kind of explain. Kylene always kind of explains it, but I'd love to hear your take on.
She always explains it. Gratitude. I don't know if I can do it as good as she can. I don't have the script, or
you do it your way.
She says it all the time. So, gratitude is definitely one of our superpowers, and without it, or not without it, with it, it helps raise our vibrations. Living in a state of gratitude just keeps life above board, is the way I see it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what I was. My question for you is like, how do you see it acting and interacting in your life and your daily, daily world, and why is it important that we start with gratitude here?
Well, for me, it really just helps kind of keep that positive spin on life. When you're talking about the self-talk in my brain that says I can't do this, or I'm not good at this, or the world is this and everything else. That's when I really try to push my gratitude and say, no, I have a roof over my head. I have food in the cupboard. I have clothes on my back. I have all these things, and I am grateful for these things. And that's what really does help bring me back and ground me to finding, that perspective of, it's not all doom and gloom, and I'm going to do better, and it will be better. And gratitude always helps pull me out of that rut.
I love that. Cool. Very, very well said. Okay. Well, for you guys that are tuned in live, we've got some people already checking in here. We have Chuck starting, and I apologize that we were a little bit late. That is on me, by the way. I want to make sure I take full credit for that. I don't know what it was about today. I've been basically running about 5 minutes late all day. I have no idea what's going on, but we'll get back in sync here. So we've got Chuck checking in. Good evening. Barb saying hello, and Doug saying hello to everybody. So appreciate you guys tuning in, but we'd love to hear from you. What's something that you guys are grateful for here today? What gratitude's showing up? And no judgment. No, we don't have to worry about, is it big enough? Is it not too big or whatever? Whatever it is, share it. So, Becky, anything come to mind off of the top of your head for you?
For me, my gratitude this week is the doctors and nurses and all the medical staff that helped my sister. She had surgery on Monday, and then a few complications that went along with it. So everybody just yeah.
Wow.
She made it through. I mean, we're through it, and she is home. So she is working on her healing process. So good vibes back to her too, because it's
Absolutely.
going to be a long process for her. But to just to have all the different people that had, what it takes to have medical staff to run a hospital is just a crazy. And then
Yeah.
the neurologist actually that we ended up having to talk to was all via telehealth. And that was interesting too. I'd never seen that done yet. So to have seen it and watched, be able to have somebody from, another hospital be able to telehealth in and help also was amazing. So, and then I just am grateful that I was able to rearrange my schedule, and because I was working on 4 hours of sleep yesterday.
Yeah.
And I just rearranged my schedule to make it happen for everything that needed to happen. So
Yeah. Wow, that's what a wild ride, and I'm grateful that you were able to be there for your sister. That's pretty incredible, and I guess one of the many benefits of being a business owner is you do get that ability to adjust your schedule as needed and do that. But then you also did the work, right? You got 4 hours of sleep, so you had to kind of make up for it as well. So good on you. Let's see here. Well, we got Chandler saying, I taught myself how to make an app for the grace period. Tell us more about it at the MOS meeting. That's pretty cool. And
I want to hear.
Yeah. So she's grateful for, that's what she's grateful for. And Steve, because he helped me get started. So for those that aren't in the know, Steve is what Chandler calls her Chat GPT.
You get to name mine. He needs a name.
Yeah. Well, I've been kind of going back and forth on that, right? Like naming mine, but then I started thinking, like, I don't know if it's a guy name. Actually, I think ChatGPT might be a female name. So we'll see. I have to.
I'm going to use Charlie. I just decided this. I'm going to use Charlie because I know a Charlie that's a girl, and I know Charlie's a boy. So
perfect. I love that.
Charlie, right. It is.
Charlie, it is. That's awesome. All right. Well, I'll have to think on that. That's a good one. Yeah. And hello, Rena. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey, Rena.
So again, you guys share what you are grateful for. For me, I am grateful for, all the things. Can I use that, Becky?
Sure. Maybe use that one in a while.
Yeah, I have it. No, I am so grateful for the relationships that are just available to us in all sorts of different ways. Like, as I was mentioning, I was just having a conversation with somebody not too terribly long ago. And actually she was sharing a presentation she's working on about the power of relationships when it comes to advertising and using that. So Becky, Karen and from the Masters of Success. And she reminded me of those relationships. I got to go to a networking meeting this morning, and I actually was telling Kylene about this. I don't know what it was, but not that I couldn't do it, but I was not as deeply into peopling. I don't know the best way to describe that, right? Like we went to that local author showcase here over the weekend. And while it was amazing, I just wasn't really feeling it at that deep level of like just having a bunch of conversations. And fortunately, Kylene was there. So she definitely a great buffer for me in that regard. But yeah, I just wasn't quite feeling it at the level that I've been feeling it at. And I don't know what it was about the networking meeting today, but it just really kind of got me back in sync. Right. So a good reminder that it's more, the relationships are more important than any of the other things that go on in our day-to-day business or lives, et cetera. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else that you guys have, go ahead and put it in the chat. We want to talk about that. So Becky, we've been over the last couple of weeks, I think it's been having just really great kind of follow-up conversations to the most recent Small Business Saturdays episode. And I love that because, well, for a lot of reasons, obviously, we know that those Small Business Saturday episodes are topics that are near and dear to my heart. But for the last, well, this will be the 9th week, we've been going through the fundamental formula, which is basically 3 sections each in each of the 3 sections of the fundamentals book of like just really core foundational things that we can take our strengths, values, and passions, our reason, and from that, then look at these areas of our business. I'll get the visual up here, right? And so each of these areas of our business, how do we align? So this is clarifying your reason. How do we align our strengths, values, and passions to our reason? But then over here, what we talked about last week was the accountability framework. And then how do we align our strengths, values, and passions to build an accountability framework that works for our business? And so that's what I'd love to talk about today, if everybody's cool with that. Unless there's another topic that you guys want to bring to the table, we're certainly open for that. But Becky agreed to talk with me about that, so we're going to start there. So I guess the first thing that I would love to just bring to the table is, in Small Business Saturdays, we kind of started with the fact that accountability starts with us, right? Like, I think when I first started thinking about accountability, I was focused on, okay, I'm going to be accountable to Becky. And so I'm looking for that external, okay, Becky's going to be my accountability partner, let's say. And so it's on her to make sure that she checks in with me so I get the things done. And what can Becky do for me? That kind of thing, right? But what I realized was that accountability really starts internally, and that external piece is really just the motivation that we need. So I guess what that kind of leap was for me was that accountability, I think sometimes maybe feels like an opportunity for punishment. Like I didn't do the thing, and so I'm going to, I don't want to show up, or I'm going to feel bad about it. I'm going to kind of beat myself up, so to speak. Right. But when we understand that it's really it's about building belief instead, that really changed things for me. So I know I've been all over the place there, Becky, but what does that kind of mean to you when you think about accountability from an internal building belief standpoint?
I think internally for, accountability as a business owner, that is something that we have to know. I mean, if you're going to start a business, it's on you. And I speak mostly, I suppose, for our small businesses. Someone, like you and I, we are it. We are the ones doing it.
Sure.
There's not a lot of other people. And even if you have employees, it's still you that does stuff.
Yeah.
So that accountability, that how that business goes is all about you. So it's on you to make things happen. And we can have external accountability partners that we check in with. Now, I agree that internally, we need to be the ones doing it. If I'm going to have an accountability partner, I should be the one reaching out saying, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Now I need help. As opposed to, and not that you shouldn't have an accountability partner that checks in on you. I think I told Chandler I'd check in on her. I haven't the last 2 days, but it's been crazy. So, and I thought of that I didn't get a chance right before, because both time I was ready to hit the keys, then you jumped in. So I was like, oh, I can't do that now, to check and see how her day went, because I didn't get to Slack today to check in.
Sure.
That was my day.
Yeah.
So it is on us to be accountable for our actions and what gets done or what doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we do end up beating ourselves up a lot if something didn't happen. Yeah. And like you said, not wanting to tell somebody you didn't get it done. And And that shouldn't be the reason. I mean, life happens, we get things done.
Yeah.
I do know, and maybe this is jumping ahead or whatever,
Yeah, okay.
we
Sure.
did a focused co-working time on Monday.
Yeah.
I think it was about an hour. And it is amazing. I think Julie and I both said it. Chandler had to leave a little bit before we were done, but it was, you're focused. You said you're going to do this stuff, get it done. I know I ended up taking a phone call because my mom called for the first half, so I didn't get quite as much done there. And I know Chandler said she had a couple calls that came in, so things happen. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I was still able to focus into that hour and get things checked off my list, which at that point steamrolled into, okay, the hour's done. Now what can I do?
Yeah.
And it just kept going forward.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Yeah. That building of the momentum, right? That's huge. And um, I think as soon as we can let go of those external, what is somebody going to think about me if I don't do the thing? I mean, we all, like you said, things come up. That's always going to happen. Period. Right? Like I don't think you can change that. I'm not sure, unless you lock yourself away. But then at that point, like I don't think I really want to do that. So, but the other side of that is like, and even when things don't happen, we overcommit ourselves. We do think like it happens. So there is this kind of renegotiation that has to happen. But the reality of it is it's not renegotiation from a, how do I look? How do I, look in this person's eyes? If you have an accountability partner, you have a mastermind group that's founded in what we're talking about here, none of that stuff matters, right? Like we know in MOS, it's not about whether you did the thing or not did the thing, right? We want to be accountable to each other. We all love each other and want to make sure that we're getting to where we want to go in our lives. And so when we let go of those labels, now we start building belief in ourselves, because once I did the thing, right? So you talked about that co-working hour that you had, right?
Right.
Took a call, mom called, great. But then you started making progress. Okay, I did that thing. Oh, that builds a little belief. I can do that thing. Oh, now I did the next thing. And I think each time we do something that we have committed to, we build a little more self-belief. And so if we can just keep tacking those things on one little action at a time, then it goes from being about that commitment to others to really being about building our own belief and growth, right? And so for me, I love the fact that when I'm accountable to somebody, and honestly, the best thing that's happened is when I've said I'm going to do something and then I don't do it. And that sounds really odd, but the reality is when I don't do it and then I go, oh, darn it, I didn't do it. Right. And I have that initial like external, what are they going to think about me? And I go, nope, that's not what's important here. What's important here is that I figure out a way to keep that from happening in the future. So I'll give you a quick example, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, Becky, is when I'm not a great note taker from like you read my notes and you go, what was he watching that I wasn't, that type of thing, or what was he listening to in this meeting? They're just kind of random to me. The notes are just random things that I write down. I don't ever quite finish a thought, but it's more of a marker to keep me to come back and remember later. But what I discovered was I was like making commitments to different things, and they were kind of ending up with my notes, but my notes were so random, I never really got to them. And so I just made a really tiny adjustment that has been massively huge for me over the course of since I figured this out. When I make a commitment to something that I want to make sure that I'm honoring any commitments that I've made, in that note, I just circle it. I mean, it was really that simple. I just make, and so I make sure I'm not circling other things. I only circle the things that I've committed to. I might put a box around something that I want to highlight, but anytime I've circled something, that's an indicator to me to come back and either make sure it gets into my project management system, or if I can just do it and get it over with, then right. And if I start finding myself putting too many circles and overcommitting, then that's a new opportunity to go, okay, why am I overcommitting? Am I trying to be liked too much? Do I need to think about that? So anyhow, what's your take on that kind of like setting up a system to do what you say you're going to do?
Well, and that's, I think that's hard for all of us
Yeah.
sometimes to, I know I
Agreed.
find myself doing that too. Like I was supposed to have a baseball warm up thing out this week.
Yeah.
I have it half done. I just don't have it completely done.
Yeah.
Um, and then I knew
It's only
today's
Wednesday.
tasks were to get these signs done. And so that shifted. And I don't want to say quote unquote, but I somewhat forgot about it until we started talking about commitments here and what we needed to do.
There
And
you
then
go.
I'm like,
That's accountability.
um, so for me, it goes back to making sure my notes are good in my planner.
Okay.
And like you said, your project management, we use different ones. I use Trello. I think you're using
Yep.
Asana.
Uh-huh.
I've really, really, really tried because my Trello is on my computer. It's on my phone.
Mhm.
Might be on my iPad, but I don't use my iPad for that much. But I can get to it from wherever. So I went in the house, and as I was grabbing a couple things before I came back out here, I had a text message for somebody about an order. So as I'm on my phone, I flip over to Trello and I put it in there because that's the only way I'm going to remember that it needs to get done.
Yeah.
And the other thing that my accountability side for myself is now I have learned that I need to put due dates on so that they don't get lost in my system by
Mhm.
just adding to the list. So if I add the due date, then my system will give me a reminder,
Yeah.
that gentle reminder that we all need, just like
Yep.
an accountability partner would do.
Yep. Yep.
That's what it's doing for me. So
That's
that's
awesome.
actually my next step for myself is to be making sure I'm adding those due dates.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about what you just shared there, Becky, is right. Like you see where there's an area that there's a potential for improvement. You make the thing, and then maybe it works or maybe it doesn't quite work. Okay, good. I got it in the system, but there was another step that I maybe needed to take, right? And so now you add the due date, and those things build up over time until you have a system that works for you.
Yep.
If you were to like sit down and go, I have to just design this whole system, figure out every single detail, and get it perfectly right, I don't know how that's necessarily possible.
Right.
But doing what you did, right? Like, okay, what's the first step? Great. I took the first step. And then I noticed something else that might help, right? And so it is those little things. I talked about the little shift of just circling things, and then the next step for me is I got to make sure that, I don't have too many notes floating around everywhere with a whole bunch of different things circled on them. So I had to add to the end of my day, okay, making sure that they go into it. Like you said, I use Asana. But then the other part was, like just tiny little shifts along the way. The other next shift for me was, okay, I got it into Asana, but I didn't have it easily accessible to add stuff like when I was on the go or on my phone. I'm like, I got the Asana app, but it wasn't easy to access. So I made the change to on my front screen. I've got the app right there. I just locked it on my front screen. I've got that right there. And so now I open my phone, I can easily go to Asana and go from there. So I think that's really cool that you shared that. That's
Yep.
really awesome for people to look at. So what do you guys do? I want to hear from everybody that's tuned in live right now. What are the steps that you have started making or looking at or can potentially change to add into your system for that accountability? Because if we go back to what we originally started talking about, this isn't an external. It's not how do I look in the eyes of others? If that's what it's all about, it's never going to be successful.
Right.
What it's about is turning it back inside. How do you build that belief in yourself and say, I'm going to do what I'm said I'm going to do, and therefore I have that self-confidence, and then the external starts happening. People are so it's just flipping the script, I guess, Becky.
Right. Yep. I think it's just, and finding what works for you. I know Sandy that's in MOS. She had started with Asana. She tried to go to Trello. She didn't like Trello.
Yeah.
She's back to Asana, and she's, I think I seen today, she said she ended up setting up a new account because she could never get it so that she could email or get her email to connect with Asana. I did see Trello just did an update. They have a whole bunch of updates because all of a sudden my stuff is looking different, but they set up so that there's one email address that goes to that board. So you can go directly to that board.
Oh, wow.
As opposed in make a new card. So I can send an email forward an email right from my inbox, right to Trello, and it'll create a card for me.
Yep.
And I don't have to worry about a specific one. Like before it was you had to already have the card made and send it to that email address. Now it'll do it directly to the board and just start and create it for you.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but I will be.
Okay. That's cool.
So
I love that.
little things like that. Anything that we
Absolutely.
can find that helps us.
Yeah. And I know we've already hit this point, but I want to make sure we hammer it home very well. It is those little things, right? What's a little thing that I can do to make this a little bit easier, a little bit faster, a little bit less about, the brain power, the decision, um, I mentioned I was at a kind of a networking thing, but there was also a lot of education stuff going on. So the way they do it is really fun, and they have presentations, little 15-minute presentations. And one of the ladies was talking about the fact that time management isn't necessarily about what we think it is. It's not a problem of time management. It is more a problem of our perception and what we think our abilities are, and that we are constantly task switching and doing things like that. And she mentioned just the act of switching tasks takes up energy. And another gentleman in the audience is a wellness doctor, like a PhD, and he mentioned the fact that our brain actually uses 25% of our daily glucose store, our energy store, and compared to the rest of our body, it uses 25% of that store. So the more we kind of work our brain into that task switching, that decision making, and kind of frivolous thoughts as opposed to deeper, more important things, what can we put on autopilot, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, and I think too that, we've talked in the past about all the decisions that we make,
Yeah.
So going back to, if you don't have to decide what you're doing with something, you know what you're doing. You have your process in place.
Yeah.
As soon as I get an order, this is what I do. It's an automatic. It becomes automatic. So I don't have to think about like, oh, I'm going to go write that on a note. Oh, I need to find my planner and then write it in the note. Oh, I need to, it's one thing. It's always going to that first, always going to Trello first type of thing.
Yeah,
so it takes that decision-making process out of it. I don't have to think about it. And then I don't have to remember where I need to go find it because now I've already put it where I'm looking for things.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, those of you that are tuned in live right now, Chuck, Barb, Doug, Chandler, Rena, I'd love to hear from you guys. How do you capture and manage the things that you say you're going to do? What's your system? What's your nuance? What's your little thing? Maybe that's a gold nugget that somebody needs. So love to hear you guys share that. And as with all things, the whole idea here, the things that Becky and I are talking about, the things that we're sharing here, they're not meant to be prescriptive. You don't need to go use a sauna and do the system. You don't need to circle your notes or whatever. Becky, you said this before. Find what works for you. And so that's why we love having perspective. We love having you guys share your thoughts in here. Is it's about really giving us different ideas to be inspired by and go, oh, well, I'm not really, you mentioned the fact that Sandy tried both Asana and Trello. I've done the same thing. I really wanted to like Trello, especially since you use it so readily and do so well with it. And it just wasn't for me. It didn't make Trello bad. It just, my brain didn't function the same way Trello did. And so that's not what we're saying. We're not saying go out and get Trello or Asana.
Well, I think there's a free version.
Absolutely. Both of them have free versions, so it's all good. Anyhow, so love to hear the inspiration from you guys. What is it that you do to kind of capture your commitments that you've made? And not just to other people, right? We make commitments to ourselves all the time. And how are we capturing that? Oh, I'm going to do this thing. Okay, great. And how are you capturing that and making sure that you do that? Like you had talked about, Becky, just adding in that due date on it might be a great way to do that. So, Rena says making good habits. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Right. I need to get my life back together. The last 2 months, it's been to-do lists. Right. So, okay. All right, there you go. And Chandler, I would just maybe, I don't know, just a way to think about it differently. Instead of I need to get my life back together, maybe just get rid of that label. Like, Who says
I
your
think
life's
Chandler has
falling
her
apart?
life together.
Exactly.
She has her
That,
life together way more than she's giving herself credit for.
that's exactly it.
She has been doing amazing things,
Yep.
and the trivia night was super successful.
Yes, it was.
She maybe is letting some things go ahead of what's important for herself, but her life is together. She's
Yeah.
rocking it.
Yeah.
She just needs to see that.
Correct. Oh, so well said, Becky. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Like, just get rid of that label of the need to get my life back together. From the outside looking in, looks pretty good. So,
And if it's not feeling that way, that's a different story. But
sure.
and those are things that's where I believe her coming to MOS has helped tremendously,
Yeah.
because she, I think, would be falling at that point where she's not falling. She maybe is not making quite as much progress as she herself thinks she needs to make, but she's there, and she's accountable for herself and everything that she's doing, and she's being a rock star.
For sure. I agree 100%. And I guess, Becky, my belief is that we are all doing the very, very best that we can in that moment with our current level of knowledge, skills, and ability in that moment. Right. And so if we're not where we want to be, then we get to change that story. We just got to take a different step, make a little slight adjustment, those types of things. So, you put that very well. Okay. So let's get a couple more here. Rena says, I have a task list on my phone that syncs with my Google account. I also have a whiteboard in my shop. The more reminders, the better for me. Love it. That's great. Rena, are you aware of that? Barb says, I use To-Do app that links with Outlook. As I complete tasks, I check them off. Love it. Cool. Chandler says, thank you. All right. I think that, this is awesome. What a great conversation. Don't tell Kylene, but I think we're doing really well. No,
she would just be the icing on the cake.
That's right. We'll get the icing back here. All right, Becky. Well, this has been great. I want to also talk about kind of maybe the second section when we start. Okay, now we're understanding that it's about internal, but we do have external feedback. We do have external inputs that also are very crucial in our accountability role, like we talked about, right? It's just look at it the other way first, and now we can go, and here's the word that we use a lot that we need to continue to use more, is now we go and be intentional about those external inputs. And so, in Fundamentals Live, in the Fundamentals of Business Success book, throughout, one of the things we talk about is a quote by Jim Rohn that says, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if you are honest with yourself, that's absolutely true. Now, I think where sometimes we forget is that when I think of the 5 people I spend the most time with, it's like, oh, well, I spend a lot of time with Becky, the actual physical people directly in my life, or even the people that I'm having these one-on-one conversations with. But the other people that we spend the most time with are the things that we're feeding our brain. So maybe it's the news on in the background. Maybe it's the Facebook group that you're in where there's a lot of blaming, complaining, commiserating happening. It's the things that you're allowing to kind of pour into you without even knowing it that also make up that kind of top 5 list. So what I love about you, Becky, is you're very intentional with this, and you've really shown that throughout your time kind of joining MOS and being a part of it and being a leader in it and that type of thing. So what was the turning point for you where you really said, I want to make sure that maybe you've always been that way, but tell us a little bit about, kind of being intentional about your top 5, quote unquote.
I think it just, you notice in your life, for me, when I joined MOS, it really did move my circle. There was a whole different level of information and accountability at that point, the external accountability at that point, which really led me to believe that, what I was listening to or what I was watching, that kind of stuff. So I started a lot of podcasts. I have not now for a while. I'm not pressing as much. So when I used to do a lot of the pressing myself, in my business, I would have a podcast on, or I'd be listening to a book. And so those were just influences then that, they just they lift you up, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
no different than the gratitude. But if you're going to be listening to I hate to have complain about the news, but the news is not very positive in any given day. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what day or year or wherever you at. I don't think the news has always ever been very positive.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to that, that's what your brain is hearing. And that's what starts the downward spiral. So changing that into a podcast about positivity or gratitude, reading a gratitude shift book, anything like that. I mean, that was just really trying to find podcasts and, music. I don't listen to music I try not to listen to music that has bad words. I'm trying to find more of that type of uplifting. I mean, actually, I got working on signs, and there was something I had pulled YouTube up for something else, and there was was it a meditation? How did that say it was? Now I probably lost it, but it was actually like a 12-hour live thing, but it was all about not motivation. What's the word I'm looking for? Lost it.
Vibration or the
Wait, well, it wasn't. It starts with an M. I can't come up with it. Doesn't matter. Anyways, It was calming and whatever music. It was just very subtle. I had it on just in the background, and I was working away on signs, and all of a sudden I looked up and I was like, "Ooh, it's 4:45. I should probably get there." Thinking Aaron was going to be waiting for me.
Not today, unfortunately.
Not today. And that's something, I mean, I used to be here at 5:30 trying to wait for a podcast to be ready, but obviously I've settled into that and don't need to be feeling like I need to rush in and whatever. So, but just again, having that sound or that music behind me it was calming, and it had it so that it changed my outlook of what my brain was thinking about. It just calmed everything out, and we could go with it. So definitely those external music and
that's perfect.
Voices that are in your life.
Yeah.
No matter where they're coming from.
For sure. All right. Rena shared turning off the news and turning on positive noise makes such a difference. Yeah. So true, Rena. I'll make a quick comment about the news, because I'm with you, Becky. It's not about turning off the news in I want to bury my head and not know what's going on in the world and just kind of live in my own little bubble. Yep. That's not what it's about. But if we think about kind of the way the news has evolved in my lifetime, right? Like, the news was originally intended to be, here's the facts, here's what's happening, quick hit, little here, so you know what's going on, and then on to regularly scheduled program. But all of a sudden we have this 24-hour news cycle, and so now it's filled with all this commentary, and the news has figured out that to sell more advertising, they feed on humans' negativity bias. And that's what gets us to, alert. Oh, scary thing. I gotta, and then that starts building all this fear inside of us.
Yep.
And no matter how intentional you are about it, there's only so much of that you can take before it does really start to make a difference the other way, right? Rena says, turn off the news, turn on positive noise makes such a difference. But turning on the news, having that going in the background, you can go, oh, I don't really listen to it as background noise. It's getting into your subconscious brain. And so it's not about turning off the news to say, I don't really know what's going on. Like, come on, we live in a digital world. I haven't turned on the news in 15 years, and I still know what's going on in the world. Right. I can go find out the fact. I can look at the information that I need to find out to know what's going on in the world, but I don't need to hear every Tom, Dick, and Harry's kind of opinion about it. I'm happy to have a conversation about important things and get varying opinions, but I don't want to be just fed whatever thing is fed. And so I do this from both sides, right? Like, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, I don't care. I don't want the opinion. I could agree with you or not agree with you. That doesn't matter. So anyhow, just a long story to tell you that it's not about, like you said, Becky, kind of letting go of that. It's about being very intentional about what type of noise is in your ear, but also then the people that are around you, right, are also feeding into you. And so we actually in MOS and through our success group kind of talk about a audit of our top 5. Right.
We
And
need to hit Rita's comment before we get too far,
yeah,
because I think this
that's
is
good.
important. She says, totally agree. My husband was the one that pointed it out to me. I just had it on in the background and didn't realize how uptight it was making me. And I
Yeah.
think that's something to realize too, that even though you're not listening to it, it's a vibration coming at you.
Yeah. You're
And
right.
so that vibration coming out of that program at that time is stressful and will make you uptight.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel is called Relaxing Melody. And they have several ones that was a deep focus for concentration, one for studying, stop overthinking. So I actually have it. I'm subscribed to it now. So I'm going to be looking for that because, I honestly haven't needed to have a lot of noise out in my office. I find that sometimes I can't have, if I have a book or a podcast going, as soon as I start working, then there's too many things going on and I can't take it. But I would like some music or something background ish going. So
Yeah.
this is probably going to become a new thing for me to try. So I think I'm looking forward to that. So
Yeah, I love that. Well, if you really want to get geeky into that, right? I'd love that's something I love talking about because I know maybe you guys are sitting there on the other side going, "I'm a business owner. What does this actually mean for me?" But think about how you operate, right? Like if you're to Rena's words here, uptight or feeling anxious or have that fear going on, are you really making the best decisions for your business from that place?
right.
No, the best decisions for your business are going to come from a place of focus, of positive energy, of those types of things. Like we were talking about inside the MOS Slack channel about right the situation with tariffs and should we be buying more inventory and things like that. And my point was not whether we should or should not. Right? I think as a business owner, you get to make that decision, what's right for you. But if you're making this buying decision from a place of fear, then maybe that's worth checking out, right? If you're making it from okay, this is good for my business, like perfect, great, go for it. But if you're just going, oh man, the news is telling me that, the prices are going to go through the roof and blah, blah, blah. Sure. Will they go up? Absolutely. I don't, that's what inflation is. The prices are always going to go up until something major happens, but there will be a balancing situation at some point, right? So,
But the thing is as soon as those prices are going up, so should yours.
yeah, that's a good point. Really good.
That is something that, you need to remember that as soon as you have to pay more for that, then you should be adjusting your price also.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
That's a really good point, Becky. Thanks for sharing that. And then just kind of going back to the noise and the sound thing that you found there. Yeah, like I said, that's a topic I love geeking out over because there is actually a ton of science around sound waves and the hertz and how that affects our rhythms and kind of the states that we're in. So I've actually gone and I have different playlists for different times of the day, right? So like when I wake up, I want to stay in that theta state that is really a more kind of a connected, all those things that you kind of came up with, the solutions you came up with in your sleep. The second you go in and you start doing something like a task or you start trying to make those decisions, you lose all that creative energy that you got from that night of sleep. So if you can stay in that theta state longer, then you get a lot more really good stuff out and you get a lot more connected to that, universe, source energy, whatever it is for you. And then we can switch into what they call a beta wave or a gamma wave, where we are a bit more focused, but actually task oriented doing things. Right. And then in the evening, you got to start transitioning to delta waves. So you sleep better. So anyhow,
Yeah, I like the Hertz ones too.
Yeah.
And then Rena put out here too. She said that she listens to the coffee house cover bands on Pandora. So I have wrote that down. So if you saw me writing and not looking, that's what I was doing.
Perfect.
I was writing it down so I can go find it later.
Yeah, there you go. Make that make those notes. I love it. So I guess get back a little bit to what we're talking about here with our top 5 list and kind of being right, like back to that intentionality. So as you kind of began kind of making those changes, making those shifts, right, you've seen the positive impact not only in yourself, but from what I've seen, and so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen tons of positive impact to your business as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
And I can tell when I fell off and not been doing, it is an ebb and a flow,
Yeah.
And stuff. But that, yes, for me, it has definitely pushed my business up to the next level.
Yeah. But when you talk about that ebb and flow, Becky, though, I think that's such a great point that you're kind of bringing to the table here, is that is what the other part of what accountability is all about. It's that ebb and flow is going to happen, and real true accountability that's going to be useful and valuable for you. There's no judgment to any of that, right? Like I can't speak for you, but from what I see and hear, as you go through some of those ebbs and flows, nobody in MOS is judging you for that, right? They're cheering you on. They're saying, what can we do to help you? How can we lift you up? That type of thing, right? So, how does that work for you? Because I know you're really good at that too, showing people grace, just saying, hey, cool, let's move on. How does that work for you?
I think it's just a matter of you, like you've always said to us, to lean into those people that are there to help you. Keep showing up even when you don't want to. I mean, it's kind of like anything. It's like exercise. It's like whatever we need to do. We have to do it when we don't feel like it. We want to do it when we feel like it. But the times when you do show up, and that's usually when things show up for you, when you show up, whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever it is you're having a problem with, we talk all the time about coming to MOS and saying, oh, I don't really have anything. Well, it's like the most famous line in MOS lately. I don't really have anything.
Normally the longest, most deep conversations, right?
Right. And for me, it never fails that whatever anybody else brings to the table, that they're having something that they are asking about, it relates somewhere along the line for me. There just isn't anything that we aren't working on that isn't something that can't help somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to understand, that I can remember walking into MOS thinking, I got nothing to offer. I remember working on a meeting with you thinking, I have nothing to offer, but at the same time, we all do, because there's such a different perspective for other people coming from other people, that's why I love the MOS community and the networking community, because there's always something to learn from somebody else.
Yeah. Agreed. I love it. Well, I guess as we kind of start to wrap this up here, Becky, again, those that are listening live, or maybe you're catching the replay of this, so you can put it in the comments there. But what's an action that maybe you want to commit to this week? Let's try this accountability without the judgment thing on for size, right? Mm-hmm. And see what that looks like for you. So what's an action that you're committed to this week? And then how can we best hold you accountable? Maybe it's to go put it in the Entrepreneur Success Hub group or something like that, right? Maybe it's a direct reach out that Becky and I can help you with, or whatever. Becky, you had mentioned that you had kind of made a commitment to something, and I just spaced what it was. Baseball, maybe?
Oh, I have to get my baseball warm-ups out there.
And the cool part was, like, you were kind of like, I'm feeling accountable to that, but you said you got to do that this week. So we're Wednesday. We're just at hump day. So you got time. So
I have tomorrow because I'm off Thursday or off Friday.
Okay. All right. Well, so is that, just as an example, maybe let's use that as an example for everybody, so we can report back next week. Does that sound like a plan? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me think about my action here real quick while you guys are typing in the chat what your commitments are, and then let's hold each other accountable in the best possible way.
Aaron's thinking about that here. Yeah. Use the Entrepreneur Success Hub group. Go over there and ask questions, or say, okay, I'm working on this. Ask the question, ask us for accountability, put hashtag accountability, and we will, jump in there and come back and see what we can help you with. And if we need to be an external accountability partner, we can do that.
Yeah.
But we can't do it if you don't ask.
That's a really good point. I love that. Absolutely. You only get out what you put in, right? I think that's the way I always try to say it and look at it. So, yeah, I'm still thinking here. So, so let me kind of, this is what I kind of left Small Business Saturdays with. And so I would love to get your take on this idea here. Just, I closed Small Business Saturdays saying accountability isn't about pressure. It's about clarity and commitment. So, yeah, how does that land for you? I know we've talked a lot about the MOS group, so maybe you can kind of give people a little bit more about that. Whatever's right for you there would be great while I finish my thought here on what I'm going to commit to.
I do. I love MOS because we have that external accountability that we come to every 2 weeks. Something that Aaron has added for us that we asked for was that he does a mid-time check-in. So the opposite Monday that we don't meet, there's always a quick message that says, hey, how's goals going? We're halfway through. What's everybody working on? How far have you gotten? It just kind of like reiterates that we are needing to be looking at what we're supposed to be doing. We have our Slack check-ins that we do, and in there we opted to put in our canvas what our goals are, and that helps. Like I know where I can go look for them because it's like I wrote them down somewhere. I entered them to give them to Aaron, but Aaron has made it very easy for us to go find it. And I probably should go look at mine. I think I know I've done part of them, but I know one of my commitments for my MOS was to have another meeting with Aaron. I have not got that done. Do we have a meeting on Monday? Are we already 2 weeks in?
Yep. We will have MOS on Monday.
That one might not happen. I'm not sure. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
Yeah. And I think that's the other cool part about accountability though, Becky. Like, okay, didn't happen. And who cares? Right? Like, okay, what do we learn from that?
Yep.
If we learn something, great. Otherwise, there's no value to it. So let's just leave that where it was and regroup, right? Like I've been crazy busy over these last 2 weeks. So, it would have been hard to maybe even find a time. So who knows, right? So it takes two to tango and all that's really good stuff. So I think, kind of commitment wise for me, I made a commitment to myself this year in 2025 that, we've made lots of progress in MOS over the years in other people's businesses and whatnot. I was actually talking to Wendy, and Wendy reminded me we've actually been doing MOS for 4 years, and Sandy's been with us since then, and Wendy and Allison, and so one of the things I really kind of made a commitment to myself was not only do I want to make sure that we have the mindset to get there, but the actual practical accountability piece, right? So we added that, what you were just talking about, making sure that you guys had the goal somewhere where you could find it easily. I'm trying to be more intentional about that midweek check-in. We're very, very specific about our number one goal for the year and actually having a check-in. We just had our Future You party and that kind of thing, and really cool stuff. So I guess my commitment for this week between now and next Wednesday, when we come back here, so I'm going to give myself the full 7 days of that thing. We're taking applications. I want to continue to grow the Masters of Success. I know I've talked about this new role that I took on with American Print and Supply, but that does not take away from the fact that the Masters of Success and masterminding is my facilitation core value. So I'm going to do some direct reach outs to people and see if there's some folks that are ready to bring MOS into their life. So that's my commitment here.
And as you would tell us, you would say, how many are you going to do?
That's a good call. That's a very good call. I have 3 people in mind right now. So I'll go with 3, and maybe that momentum will take me further. But right now in my mind, I've got 3 people that I'm reaching out to. Rena, you're one of them, by the way.
Hey, her name is in my head.
I'm calling people out too while I'm at it. All right. Really good stuff, Becky. Thank you for this great conversation. There you go.
How much and by when? Yes, that's a good one, Sandy.
There you go. So how much? 3 by next Wednesday. There you go. All right. Let's see here. Craig says this weekend is a refresh and recharge weekend for me. Love it. Okay. So that's the commitment. Craig's going to refresh and recharge.
Rena says, ouch.
What's that?
Rena says, ouch.
Ouch. Hey, if me reaching out to you is an ouch, I'm not doing it right. I just want to check in with you and see where we're at. Okay. I think that's about it. Becky, anything else you can think of?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll
What a
be
great show.
looking forward to having Kylene hopefully back next week.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought we did a pretty
I
good
think we
job. I
did
think
great.
Kylie would be proud of us. So.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you all next week.
Have a great week.